Welcome to First Time Watching. After watching 28 years later and reading through a mixed bag of reviews, I noticed something interesting. Whether you liked the movie or not really depended on why you watch movies. Reviewers who appreciate artistic camera work above all else absolutely loved it. But the general audience, those who just watch a movie for the story and to be entertained, mostly hated it. The main reason? This film feels like one long setup for the already filmed and ready to release sequel 28 years later, The Bone Temple. But what's the real meaning behind this movie? Who is this Jimmy guy? Why is the rage virus suddenly exclusive to the British people? And finally, why are the zombies walking around naked? We'll dive into all of this right after a quick movie recap. After little Jimmy's family gets gobbled up by zombies, he runs to his nutcase dad, who just happens to be a priest. The old man rambles about how happy the apocalypse makes him before handing Jimmy a cross. Jimmy hides, waiting for the right moment to escape. Now, after the events of 28 weeks later, the rage virus was pushed back from mainland Europe and contained within the British Isles. Fast forward 28 years, Spike wakes up, ready for another glorious day in paradise, all thanks to his parents, who thought it was a brilliant idea to have a kid during a zombie outbreak. He's 12 now and heading out for the first time with his dad, Jamie, to scavenge resources on the mainland. They cross a bridge that's only passable at low tide and make their way to dangerous territory. While Jamie is showing Spike how to kill a zombie, another one of those big, ugly, for some reason fat, while they have barely something to eat freaks, sneaks up. Soon they're surrounded and forced to fight off an entire family of pudgy, naked, infected. The next 20 minutes are basically Jamie teaching Spike how to survive the infected lands and unintentionally exposing him to the sheer amount of nudity the outside world has to offer. Okay, mostly it's zombie killing practice, but yeah, that nudity thing too. Jamie explains that one of the zombies hunting them is an alpha, bigger, stronger, smarter, long dong, and able to command other infected. With the alpha stalking them, they miss the low tide and are forced to spend the night on the mainland. They hide in an abandoned house, but when it collapses in the middle of the night, they're forced to run back toward town. The tide is rising, but it's low enough to cross. With the alpha closing in, Jamie tells Spike to run. The townsfolk wake up and rain arrows down at the monster, but it barely slows him. Just as the alpha is about to grab them, someone fires a burning harpoon into its chest, sending it crashing to the ground. Spike and Jamie make it home safely. That night, Spike celebrates his first hunt with a pint of beer. He tags along as Jamie struts around town, milking the hero narrative. But Spike hates it. He knows he was lousy out there. He also catches his dad giving his teacher the medium dong. Spike confides in an old man who watched his mom while they were gone. He tells him the truth about what happened and also mentions seeing a fire in the distance. The old man says it must have been Dr. Kelson, his doctor from 30 years ago. Jamie probably didn't tell Spike about Kelson for a reason. The guy's a total weirdo, notorious for burning piles of bodies 15 years back. But Spike is convinced the doctor could help his mom, who's getting worse. When he confronts Jamie about keeping secrets, he tells him that he knows he's been playing hide the baguette with his teacher and commands him to get out of their home. Not long after, Spike sets a fire to distract the guards, grabs his mom, and sneaks her out onto the mainland. That night, they sleep near a church, but one of the chubby meat munchers creeps up on them just before it bites Spike. His mom, in a hallucinatory rage, bags the zombie's head and smashes it against a tombstone. The next morning, they continue toward the doctor. On the way, Spike's mom sees a statue of an angel, triggering childhood memories and nosebleeds. Her mind is slipping. They're ambushed by zombies and take shelter in a gas station, which, unfortunately, is filled with gas. Just as they're about to be overrun, a soldier named Eric opens a window and shoots into the gassy room, causing a huge explosion. Eric, the lone survivor of a Swedish strike team, joins them. He explains that his squad was wiped out by the Alpha and that he's been stranded since their boat sank. He and Spike bond a little, but then distant screams pull them toward a train. Inside, Spike's mom discovers a pregnant, infected woman. Somehow, she connects with her and helps deliver the baby. Miraculously, the child looks normal, but once the mother turns hostile again, Eric guns her down. Eric, panicked, tries to kill the newborn, but the Alpha appears, rips Eric's head and spine out Mortal Kombat style, and charges. Spike and his mom flee, and just before the Alpha can reach them, a dart drops him. It's Dr. Kelson, covered in iodine like a freaky Oompa Loompa. Alpha. He explains that the smell repels the infected. He leads them to his home, a grotesque bone temple complete with a tower of skulls. He adds Eric's skull to the collection. Kelson examines Spike's mom and deduces, even without equipment, that she has advanced cancer spreading to her brain, which is also the cause of her memory loss. And sadly, there's no cure. While Spike grieves, Kelson and his mom share an unspoken agreement. Kelson sedates Spike. His mom hands the baby over to Spike, passing on her role as caregiver, and then Kelson puts her down. Later, he returns with her skull and asks Spike to place it atop the tower like the star on a Christmas tree. The next day, the Alpha comes running. He found them. So Kelson, Spike, and the baby hide in his underground bunker, but the Alpha finds them. He smashes through the ground and grabs Kelson, but Spike grabs one of his darts and stabs the Alpha, sedating him just long enough for an escape. Spike eventually makes it home with the baby, but it's now 28 days later. When he left the baby at the town's gate, he also left a note for his dad. He's fine, but he is not coming back to town, and Kelson isn't a monster, just a weirdo. While resting, Spike encounters another zombie. He kills it, but more follow. Just when he's cornered, a group of men in blonde wigs and tracksuits swoop in, slaughtering the horde in ridiculous fashion. Their leader introduces himself. His name is Jimmy. He's the kid from the beginning of the movie. Around his neck hangs the upside-down cross his priest father once gave him. He asks Spike if they should be pals. 28 years later, feels like the series finally looking back at itself. It isn't really about the virus anymore, but about time, memory, and the way people carry their scars. Decades after the first outbreak, small communities cling to the idea of safety, but that safety is fragile, and the past never really loosens its grip. The rage is still there, lingering like trauma that refuses to fade. That sense of inevitability runs through the more personal storylines, especially Isla and Spike's. Her illness isn't just tragic on its own. It mirrors the unstoppable nature of the infection. Both consume, both strip away life, and both force the people around her to live with the tension between hope and despair. In that way, the film blurs survival and suffering, making you question whether one is worth much without the other. The imagery turns that conflict into something even more unsettling. An infected woman giving birth feels horrifying, yet it's loaded with meaning. New life emerging in the middle of death, proof that renewal doesn't wait for peace or safety. It's disturbing and strangely hopeful all at once, pulling you into emotions that don't fit neatly together. What lingers after the story ends is the reminder that containment always fails, because the real problem isn't the virus. Rage is a reflection of us, the violence we justify, the mistakes we repeat, the things we try to control but can't. The film leaves you with that heavy dread of history circling back on itself, but tucked inside it is something more fragile, the possibility that even in the darkest moments, life keeps finding a way to continue. The movie's last scene jumps forward 28 days. Spike is still alive, but things look bad when a group of infected spot him just as they're about to attack. A gang in matching tracksuits shows up and wipes them out. Their leader is Sir Jimmy Crystal, who turns out to be the same Jimmy we saw at the very beginning of the film. The movie actually tries to trick the audience earlier. Aaron Taylor Johnson's character is named Jamie, which makes it easy to assume he's the same Jimmy all grown up. But no, this is a different person. The real Jimmy disappears for most of the story and only comes back in this final scene. What makes it extra creepy is the way Jimmy Crystal is styled. His look is based on Jimmy Savile, a real-life British TV star who was once very famous but was later revealed to have abused hundreds of people. So, if you know that background, seeing a character dressed like him instantly makes Jimmy Crystal feel more threatening. And it's not just about his clothes. Jimmy leads a whole group of fighters who seem more like a cult than a rescue team. Sure, they save Spike, but it doesn't necessarily mean Spike is safe. The ending leaves you wondering if Jimmy's group will protect him or take advantage of him. This twist also connects back to the first 28 days later. In that movie, soldiers promised safety, but secretly planned to use women for repopulating. It showed how, in times of chaos, humans can be just as dangerous as the infected. 28 years later takes place almost 3 decades after the last movies. At the end of 28 weeks later, it looked like the rage virus had spread to France and could take over the world. But this film quickly clears that up. The virus was stopped before it left the UK. Now, it's completely trapped on the British Isles. Survivors inside are left to struggle on their own, while NATO forces patrol the oceans around the country to make sure nobody goes in or out. These patrols are safer than living on land, but they're not perfect. Eric and his squad learn that the hard way when their ship hits rocks and sinks. Through them, we also get a glimpse of life outside Britain, and it's surprisingly normal. People still have the internet, cell phones, and even things like Botox. The rest of the world basically moved forward like real life, just without Britain involved in anything. 28 years later has attracted a lot of attention, and not just for its story. Fans have been talking about the fact that Cillian Murphy doesn't appear. But one of the biggest topics online, however, has been the fully naked zombies, especially the alpha zombies, who are bigger, stronger, and packing some serious heat. Director Danny Boyle explained that none of the nudity was real because Alfie Williams, who plays Spike, was only 13. All male and female genitals had to be fake. Prosthetics were used to protect him and comply with child safety laws. The dude who plays the alpha zombie confirmed this in the interviews, and when asked if his meat actually resembled the prosthetic, he replied, "Well, I am 6'8". I'll say no more. Personally, I don't see the point of any zombie being naked. It doesn't make sense for them to undress themselves after infection, and I fail to see the logic in a law meant to protect children from unnecessary nudity if filmmakers are making extremely realistic prosthetics that have essentially the same visual effect. Now, as for my opinion on the movie, I honestly didn't hate 28 years later. And before you torch me, I'll make it even worse. I absolutely despise 28 days later. For me, it's just a collection of quick shots that give me a headache, layered over a good story idea that's ruined by awful camera work. Yes, it was an artistic style choice, and it came out at a time when movies like The Blair Witch Project were dominating the horror scene. But that movie didn't rely on frantic camera switches to try to create suspense the way 28 Days Later did. Now, for 28 years later, I love reading, and I'm a sucker for a good setup. With trilogies, most people usually hate the second installment because it's often a cool down from the first book and a build-up to the third. 28 Years Later felt exactly like that, a side story with a twist at the ending that sets up the next movie. And I thought it was great. It actually made me excited for the next movie. And that's a wrap. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.